All right, thank you. Don't they wail? My dream is someday of joining that group, and I can just see myself let my hair grow out in the back and have a ponytail, and maybe my beard grow out long and have pigtails with my beard, and then I'd have an acoustic guitar with, of course, a harmonica, and we'd really wail if you guys had me in that group. If you have your Bibles, turn with me to the Gospel of Matthew. And we're starting a brand new series studying the concept of agape, of love, one of the words that God uses for love in the Bible. And we're entitling it Life Vines. It's Jesus' secret way to change the world. And it's not supposed to be a secret, but people have been keeping it a secret. And we're going to use it to change our lives and to impact our world. And I love Josh. Before he left on his vacation this week, he made all the posters with the vines for our symbol because it comes right from John chapter 15 and Jesus laying out this plan of how this love can change the world. You see, you can ask anybody this secret way of changing the world, any rock group back to the 60s, the 70s, not the 80s, but the 90s. You can look at any country group. You can look at any jazz group. You can look at any rap group. And they all know the answer for the world is one thing, right? Love. It comes across in all of their messages. And yet, how do we put it into action? And Jesus talks about this secret that's going on. And it's written all the way through the scriptures and it's talked about. And it's love. Not love like the world. The world knows we need love, but they don't know what love is. We have one word for love, the English word love, L-O-V-E. I know how to spell it. I'm a great speller. And we equate it with everything. So I'd say, I love my wife and I love pizza. It's the same thing, right? Unless I'm really, really hungry, that I love pizza more than my wife. No, not necessarily. But in the Bible, there's 4 words for love. All of them meaningful, all of them used in the New Testament. And all of them are important. It has phileo, like Philadelphia is taken from that. It's friendship love. And so in John 21, Jesus intersperses agape love with friendship love because deep friendships is a big part of Christianity. It has eros, which is more than sexual love. It's the appreciation of beauty, is what Plato said in his essays. But that has its role and its place within Christianity too. And it has storge, which is the kind of love that you have for a family. I was seeing my grandson hugging my daughter. And he loves to eat her hair. I don't know what that's called, but it's what he likes to do. And he also likes to eat his grandma hair. And he doesn't like to eat my hair because he already did it. And I was saying, that you always have that feeling for your mom. When I get back and all my brothers and I get together with my mom, we love just to play with our mom, to play card games, joke around with her. You have that deep storge love for a family. But then there's this word that's used in Koine Greek. Now, there's different dialects in Greek. There's classical Greek. There's Minoan Greek. There's all these different aspects of Greek. And the crudest form of Greek is called Koine Greek. And it developed after Alexander the Great conquered the world. And it would be compared to like English today that's used all over the world. It's all different forms of English, right? You put someone from Australia, someone from England, someone from the South, someone from the inner city, someone from Canada, and we're all going to speak different forms of English. In fact, when I'm in England, I need an interpreter for them to tell me what they're saying to me because I don't understand that kind of English. Well, that's the way it was with Koine Greek. It was a language that was used for the common people. And they developed this term that the Christians really hit upon. And it was used in classical Greek literature, clear back to Homer, but it wasn't developed as much. And it's the special, unique thing that happens when you have God's love flowing into your life. So through the New Testament, agape, God's love, is used time and time again. And God is the source of that love. It doesn't work if you don't stay attached to the vine and stay attached to God. It's not something that just is a commodity that you happen to find someone that you're in love with and, wow, they're just the perfect person. They have the right hairstyle and they're the right height and the right income bracket and everything. It's not a commodity. It's an art. It's a gift from God. That's what Erich Fromm, the Jewish psychologist, said, is that love is an art. And love is the answer for the world, but we just need to learn how to love, right? Especially how to love people that we don't even like, that we don't get along with, because our world is famous for us and them. Everyone's divided. Like Pastor Linda said, there's the Cougars and the Huskies, let alone those of us that graduated from Eastern Washington University. I was at a sports bar trying to watch Eastern Washington University play the Cougars, and I was the only Eagle there. It was not a friendly place. Every time they'd do something good, which was not very often, and I would cheer, the whole bar would look around at me like, what are you doing here? We know you're a pastor. I don't know if they knew I was a pastor, but I was an Eagle fan. No, in fact, some people think that's the only way we think. When you go to school, you write essays that is compare and contrast. So we have all these different groups, and it's always us and them. It's our family against other families. It's the United States against other places. The problem with us and them thinking, the fault in that needs God, is that human beings do horrible things to other human beings that they think are them. And so we have in our history 6 million Jews that were murdered by the Nazis because they thought that was the problem of the world. In Rwanda, a country that I love and has spread through Central Africa, the Tutsi people, just because their noses were a little bit different shape, 2 million of them were massacred by friends, actually, because they thought that was the problems of Central Africa, were the Tutsi people. In 1975, in Cambodia, Pol Pot had this dream of applying Mao Zedong's cultural revolution. So they divided their society into us and them. So everyone that wore glasses, and that was me. I didn't used to wear glasses. My eyes used to work. But everyone that wore glasses was put to death because they thought they weren't farmers. 2 million people were shot and hacked to death. Now that's the story of our planet, is us and them. Kids are raised to think of us. There's us and then there's them, so watch out for all of them. Don't go through that neighborhood because that's all of them. Don't go to that country because that's all of them. And Jesus had this vision that there wasn't an us and them, that everyone was our neighbor. In fact, we're supposed to love our neighbors as ourselves. That's the revolution. That's the bottom line of the message I want to get to you, because that's repeated all the way through the book of Matthew. And it starts with this vine. How do we love people that are different than us? We stay attached to God, because how did Jesus teach us to pray the Lord's Prayer? Our Father. Not my Father, our Father. It's the father of the Tutsis. It's the father of the Pol Pot enemies in Cambodia. It's the father of people that speak different languages, have different religions, have different socioeconomic backgrounds. It's the father of the bald and those that have really cool ponytails. It's the father of all of us. And then as long as we remember that, our lives will be fruitful. Probably one of the biggest tragedies that ever happened to our family was when Jackie's younger sister, Connie, passed away in her 30s, and they were really good friends. And Connie gave to Jackie, I'm not sure where it is now because we're moving, a vine, right? A plant. And Connie really had a green thumb, and that plant has grown so much through the years since Connie passed away. In fact, it's got this long, in our house, we're moving, but I'm afraid that some night in my dream that vine's going to come in there and grab me by the big toe and drag me away. But not only that, in her life, even though she faced this tragedy, she has 3 children, which we love so much as a part of our family. And they're all from different racial backgrounds, and yet they're part of our family, and now they have 5 grandchildren. And they were all such a blessing, every one of those grandchildren. Her son, Riken, lives in Hawaii, and we got to go to Hawaii for the first time. The best part of Hawaii was seeing Riken and his daughter. We had so much fun with them. Why? Because we love Connie. You have to love her kids. She used to send them to us from Hawaii, and I'd go pick them up at the airport. It was before September 11th, and they would say, Uncle Tim, as they'd run down there, and I'd pick them up. And I'd say, wow, why, how you've grown. You can't love Connie without loving her kids. You can't love other people of races, languages, backgrounds, religions even, if you love Jesus. Because the Bible says, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. No one else loves all the world. We're not a religion that competes against other religions. We don't have this superiority thinking. We realize the transforming good news of Jesus Christ as we're all on the same team. And that's why it's such a privilege for me to be called a Christian. The other day, that's my grandson. Isn't he a handsome young man? He does not like shoes. He's on a revolution against shoes. We went to pick him up at school, and they said he never wears his shoes. And then they looked down and saw I wasn't wearing shoes either. No, I'm just teasing. But Fridays, we go pick up our grandchildren, and we went to pick up Oscar and Eva, and I got there first. They didn't want to let me in because I might be a terrorist. And most grandpas don't go in there, and I hadn't been fingerprinted or all the other stuff. And so Jackie got there, and I felt like kind of a terrorist there because they weren't going to let me in, so I kind of stayed out in the hall. All these little kids thought I was a celebrity. It was my first celebrity experience of my life. They're all like pointing at me like, hey, I think that guy's Russell Wilson. No, I mean, I don't look like Russell Wilson. I mean, they're treating me with the same respect that you'd treat Russell Wilson or some other celebrity. And they're waving at me, making silly faces like kids do when you're facing a celebrity. And I'm making silly faces back to them. And I'm out in the hall, and this little kid came over, and he opened the door. He wasn't supposed to escape. He opened the door, and he was kind of elected by all the other kids to ask. He said, I just have to ask, are you a grandpa? And I said, yes, I am. And he said, I told everyone you're a grandpa. Grandpas are celebrities. Well, followers of Jesus Christ, people that choose to follow Jesus Christ, it's not joining a religion. That's the people that can cause more problems than good. It's following Jesus Christ. And Jesus says this, not only love your neighbors, he says, you have to love your enemies. What good is it that if you only like the people that like you? What have you actually accomplished? How is that going to change the world? How's that going to end war? How's that going to stop genocide? How's that going to battle homelessness? How's that going to help people whose children are facing life-threatening illnesses? How's it going to do any good for the world if you only like the people that kind of fit into your niche? He says, no, I tell you to love your enemies. And the whole theme is to love your neighbor as yourself. Well, this is where I found out the Pope has the same plan that we do, the secret plan to change the world, because we met for dinner with the Pope's ambassador, and they said, we got this great plan. Everyone's our neighbor. We're not just going to have Catholics meeting Catholics. We're going to try to meet everyone, Muslims, atheists, everything, make friends with them, have block parties with them, get to know them, not try to convert them, but just be good neighbors, because that's what Jesus meant when he said, told the story of the Good Samaritan. Samaritan also means proximity. They were the closest people next to the Jews who weren't Jewish, and the Jewish didn't like him at all. They were prejudiced against him. And the Samaritan's told of as being a good neighbor. He comes and helps the Jewish guy that's beaten up and left for dead. And he says, who's the good neighbor? They all said, Samaritans. We don't like them. And don't you just love it when the underdog has to get some credit? Like when Eastern Washington did beat WSU. And I just casually say to WSU fans, how'd you guys do against Eastern Washington? This is last year. And they'd say, we lost. Eastern won. Well, that's the way they were when they said, who's the good Samaritan here? Or who's the neighbor? The Samaritans. And Jesus says, we must love our neighbors as much as we love ourselves. All used with this word agape. You see, we stay attached to the vine. That's what it says in John chapter 15. That's the secret. Why do a lot of Christians not love other people? Why do they become so sectarian? Why do they become so judgmental? Why is it so hard for them to make friends? Can we blame it on the world that everyone buys everything online? So even if you go meet a salesman, they're like, yeah, what? What do you want? Instead of the olden days, if you wanted to make money as a salesman, you had to at least smile and say, yeah, what do you want? The world's changed, hasn't it? We can blame it on that, but the reality is we're not staying attached to Jesus Christ. This is what it says in John 15, 1 through 5, New Living Translation. I am the true grapevine. I like the grapevine because I like grapes. When I was a kid growing up in Eastern Washington, we all worked in the fields, every kid. And that's how I got to know so many different people from so many different backgrounds. But when I was a real little kid and I went to work with my mom, and I had to pick grapes for wine and for Welch's grape juice, I would say one for them, one for me, one for them, one for me. I didn't make very much money that way. Because grapes are good if you haven't noticed it. I went to preach over in Eastern Washington one time. And I had one of those microphones that sticks on your collar. And I didn't realize they left it on. And the pastors are supposed to go up to the cathedral and kneel down and take communion. And I took the communion. It was cold. The grape juice was. And it was so good. I was so thirsty. It went down. I went like that. And it went over the whole thing. And I said, man, that grape juice is good. It went echoed over the whole place. No, Jesus said, I am the grapevine. My Father is the gardener. He cuts off every branch of mine that doesn't produce fruit. In other words, you, in the meaning of your life, you want it to count for something, right? You want to find out what your gifts are. And I want to tell you, you do have gifts. No matter what your teachers have told you, no matter what your principals have told you, your boss, your friends, your mother, your father, listen to me. You have gifts. God didn't create any junk. There are no accidents. And you're made to be fruitful. So when you win the championship of the world, you're fruitful, right? When you do what you do best, you're fruitful. When you do something that you just feel like, man, I was created to do this. No one can do this better than me. I'm the person for this job. You're fruitful. You were created to have your life matter for something. But if you're not fruitful, the Father cuts you off. He throws you into the fire to burn, which means it's just a waste. Your life is just a waste. You're made to be fruitful, to count for something, to invest in other people's lives, to make a difference in this world. And when you do, it feels good to be able to do that. He says, you have already been pruned. How many of you have been pruned before? Even the part that's fruitful are pruned. I was pruned. I tend to have skin cancer. It's a gift that I have. Very few people can grow skin cancer as well as I can. And the doctor said, you're all right. We're going to keep checking up on you 4 times a year, but just don't get it on your nose. And then one day I came back from playing too much golf, and she said, you got it on your nose. And I said, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. She said, well, we're going to have surgery and take that off. And I thought, how much on my nose? And she said, we don't know. Fortunately, after the surgery is over, she said, I've got good news for you. You have a really big nose. And we took off a big hunk of it, and it's still big. That's one of the benefits of having a big nose at those times when I was being pruned at the nose. Well, Jesus says, look, when your things are going good, you're going to get pruned. It's going to be hard. People are going to fall away. They're going to go to different sides, but I'm getting you ready to do something. I'm going to teach you who your best friends are. The people that have your back no matter what. The people that would actually give their lives for them, for you. And then you're going to bear fruit. That's the secret plan to regrow this church. God's pruned us. He's gotten us ready. We have more people here than Jesus had at the Last Supper. And God's going to work through your life in an influential way. Every person here, one person on fire for Jesus Christ can make a huge difference in the church. What does that mean? Well, we take care of 4 orphanages where kids are starving to death in Honduras and Kenya, all because of this church. What does that mean? We take care of a homeless camp. What does that mean? We have lots of 12-step groups where people are addicted who find sobriety. All because one person gets on fire for Jesus Christ, they can turn a church around. Even one person who has doubts, they don't have everything together. There's no one in the world like you. You look around this room to see anyone else that looks like you. I mean, it's accidental that Dave Rosini looks like me, so God gave him hair so we could tell ourselves apart. But yeah, there's no one that looks like you. There's no one that's like you. There's a job for you to do. And so God's plan is the neighbor plan. Matthew 5:43 through 48 says, "You have heard that it was said, 'Love your neighbor and hate your enemies.' But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, that you may be sons of your Father in heaven. He causes his sun to rise and fall on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the righteous and the unrighteous. If you love those who love you, what reward will you get? Are not even the tax collectors doing that? And if you greet only your brothers, what are you going to do more than others? Do not even the pagans do that? Be perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect." In other words, we're told to love our enemies, even our friends, our neighbors, even when they're our enemies. And to turn the other cheek if they hit us. Now, I don't know if you've been punched before. I've been punched many times growing up in my neighborhood. It was just a thing to do. It's what we did for fun. And I would be a very handsome man if I hadn't grown up in that neighborhood and received all those punches. Well, one time when I was a pastor, I got a call, and it was an 18-year-old young man, big guy, had decided to take his life. He was drunk and decided to cut his wrists and take his life. And so he called me and said, "I'm in Kingsgate at a bus stop. I slit both my wrists with beer bottles, and I'm going to die. I just wanted to tell you." So I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "Well, you'll call the police." I said, "Just tell me where you're at." So I went there, and once I found out he had slit his wrist, I called the police, and he got ready to run. So I grabbed him by the shirt. I won't grab Linda by the shirt. I need someone to grab by the shirt. I grabbed him by the shirt, and I said, "You're not going anywhere. You're staying here till the ambulance gets here." And he punched me in the face. You can't punch very hard when you're up close. I said, "I've been punched so many times. It's going to be a privilege to be here holding on to you, punching me whenever the ambulance gets here." It wasn't quite the privilege and as glorious as I thought it was. He was punching me. He's still a pretty good puncher. But that's the Christian way. Someone punches us. It's not a thing of weakness that we run away. When I was a kid, one time I was going to get in a fight with this guy, and I said, "After the game, me and you get in a fight." And the guy just got this big smile on his face. "All right." And I said, "I think I'm busy after the game." Someone that can look you right in the face after they punched you as hard as they can, and say, "Punch me again," that's someone that you want to be afraid of. That's someone courageous. Jesus said, "I want you to love people that much. I want you to love enemies that much." Maybe you can stop some wars. Maybe you can stop some of the division that takes place. We're trying to sell our house, and so we had to do some remodeling. The real estate agent came and said, "You got to do all this." And so we hired some different people to do the remodeling. And I came over to the house, and first I thought they were all from Russia, because it seemed like, well, they were speaking Russian. I don't know, but I've seen a lot of movies, and I thought it was Russian, and I tried to talk to some, and I couldn't talk to them very well, and all of a sudden, they were all listening to the same music, and they were singing. All these families were working on our house. And I said, "Are you guys Russian?" And they said, "No, we're Ukrainian." But they're all singing Elliot's songs, the same songs that Elliot was just singing. And it was different words, same music. And I said, "Are you guys Christians?" And they said, "Yeah, we're Christians." I asked them what church they went to, and their church, their pastor was a student of mine as a professor at Northwest University. And I said, "I'm a pastor." They said, "Half off of all that we're charging." So if you don't learn anything else from this sermon, if you come and you find a bunch of people from the Ukraine or someplace else and they're Christians, tell them that you're a pastor, because you get half off. And the same thing happened. We had different groups. We had a Hispanic group that was working down there, and they're playing Christian music. And I said, "Are you guys Christians?" And I said, "Yeah, I'm a Christian. I'm a pastor." And they said, "Half off too." So don't use this as a technique, but man, God was really blessing us. And why? Because we're brothers and sisters, regardless of the language, regardless of the political system. We're ready to die for one another, right? They're our neighbors. And that's the way Christians have always felt. The lady that Linda was talking about with Marilyn, they're a Muslim family that started coming to our church. We treated them with honor and respect and dignity. Why? Because that's what Christians are supposed to do. And they found a faith that transcended all religions, that was looking for the truth, that saw that we're all part of the same family. And they found a relationship with Jesus Christ, who had this vision. Everyone's our neighbor. Everyone's your neighbor. Now, if I think of all the people that you influence, think about being more intentional that way. Your kids. Not coming down and trying to unload a class on them. Okay, I'm going to disciple you. I want you to learn about the books of the Bible and all this kind of stuff, and they'll be snoring in the corner. That's my job, to get them snoring in the corner when they come to church. Your job is to keep them awake. And your job is to love them, show them a love they can't resist. Find out what the questions that they have and learn together what the answers are. Be their friends for the rest of your life. If you could move your children, your grandchildren, your grandparents, your neighbors, the people you work with, the people that annoy you, if you can move them all one step forward to Jesus Christ, that's Jesus' secret plan to change the world, that everyone would see themselves as neighbors. And it's not supposed to be a secret. It's just that Christians like to live in a bubble. Not just Christians, people like to live in a bubble. When they go to school, they try to say, okay, who are the people that are just like me? Okay, that's who I'm going to hang around with. I'm not going to talk to anybody else. And Jesus says, nonsense. Love everyone. Love people that are wrestling with disabilities, because we're all wrestling with disabilities. Love every race. Love every language group. Love every culture. Love them with a love that comes from God because you're attached to the vine. That's the way we'll change the world. Now, that is not easy. Right after this service, we're going fishing, and I'm taking everyone to my secret fishing hole where I guarantee that you will catch a fish. Rich calls it a trout farm. I call it a secret fishing hole. And it isn't catch and release, though, either, even though Elliot said that, because they'll charge you $10 every time you catch one, and they won't let you release them. You have to take them home. But since kids don't like to kill fish, we take a bucket and we release them in our pond over here for the kids that don't want to kill and eat their fish. My little granddaughter, Eva, her mom, Becca, said, what do you want to do with the big fish that you caught last time we went fishing? She said, I want to kill it and eat it. So some people might like to do that, and everyone's invited to come to that. We still released it. Her mom talked her into it. But one year we went, there's a lot of kids that don't have a father to go with them or something like that. I said, anyone come, I'll bait your hook, I'll pay for the fish, I'll do all that stuff. And so there's this one kid that's just a really interesting kid. He likes to do everything outside the box. His name was Andy. And so his mom said, are you sure it's all right? You can take Andy. He's a handful. And I said, I'm a handful. I can take care of Andy. And I got there, and he was a wild man fishing. He got a pole. He was swinging around, almost putting everyone's eye out and everything. He was doing the lasso technique. And finally, everyone had caught a fish except for Andy. And it was time to go. I said, Andy, have you caught a fish yet? And he said, no. I'm going to catch the biggest one, though. And I said, well, Andy, you got to put the line in the water. They don't just go for it when you're swinging around. And he goes, this is the way I like to do it, swinging it around and around and swinging it over the water, and kept hooking people and me most of the time. And one time he pulled really hard, went right in my finger, and nice Pastor Tim turned into evil Pastor Tim. Andy, put the line in the water. Then I had to apologize. But he still wouldn't put it in the water. He was just swinging that line around all the way. He said, this is my way. And all of a sudden, the biggest steelhead out there jumped out of the water. He liked Andy's way, and he grabbed that hook, broke the pole, which cost me some money, and that was one expensive fish, too. But we got it in, and Andy said, see, my way works. And there was a joy in relating to his way. Christians are the people that believe that God is our Father, that everyone is our neighbor. There's a religion that doesn't necessarily believe that. We try to get out of the bubble of just relating to Christians or relating to people just like that. We're very intentional about trying to do that and to show people the love that comes from God, because that's his secret plan to change the world.